Oh no you didn't, Canon. Oh no you didn't.
The champ is here! The champ is here!
I've been stewing on this for a couple of days now. Hello, dog. And I was really not going to feel any type of way about Canon's announcement of the R5. Now, I know a lot of people are excited. Canon fanboys are excited. The haters are kind of excited. And I'm kind of somewhere in between. I actually love Canon a lot. And I really didn't start, well, you know what, I take that back. My 60D was like my first Canon camera and I loved it, but I've always loved what they do, and I always feel like Canon is kind of like a step up above everybody else, and I'll tell you why in a second. But everybody is really looking forward to this R5, right? And I kind of am too, but what makes me really sour about the entire thing is how Canon released the EOS, the EOS R, the EOS R, and how lackluster it was. And what really truly pisses me off about the entire thing is that I really hate how all of the major influencers on YouTube that do like tech, or basically that do like a lot of video or photos, how they embraced the EOS R, when everybody was clearly upset about it. And I think I feel like it was one of those power moves where I don't even feel like it was genuine. I feel like Canon had pitched a really good paycheck to a lot of these big influencers to basically say, look, please use the camera and please tell people that it's not a bad camera. And while I feel like that's technically not wrong of them, I kind of feel like it's very misleading about the product, because one, the specs were very lackluster. Two, it did exactly what it said it was going to do on paper. The only saving grace about the EOS R is that it does take really good footage. It takes really good pictures and it takes really good video, even though it's only 1080p. Now, that doesn't make up for the fact that it lacks in a hell of a lot of areas when it comes to the specifics and when it comes to the competition and what people want. Now, they have gone on a triad a whole year almost now, pumping people up, telling them to get the EOS R. The only thing that I don't like about the EOS R, I feel like it's a very rough prototype that Canon put out and everybody's buying into it because of the influencers. Honestly, I think if they all came out and said, it's no good, don't use it, I don't think that they would even be announcing an R5 or anything thereafter. Such a disaster if a disaster like that occurred. So with them, you know, leaking the R5, some R5 specifics or whatnot, or rumors, and then for them to come out and say, look, the R5 is going to happen and it's also going to shoot 8K video, a lot of people are excited. Now, what I feel like is, I feel like this is very misleading of Canon, and they're being very careful with their words. Shooting 8K to grab high density stills or screen grabs for pictures, it's very misleading, right? To me, it's very misleading. And it's gonna have dual card slots, but they didn't really expound on that. There's just things like that that make me feel like the R5 is actually going to be a proper EOS R rendition, or what we should have got the first time. I think that's what the R5 is going to be. And what really makes me mad is that they charge you so much for the EOS R, which is way too much to begin with. The EOS R with this capabilities, honestly, in my in my opinion, should cost no more than $1,000. That's just my opinion. What they've done is they implemented a new mount, the RF mount, which is amazing. A long-awaited successor to the EF lenses. I can't argue that. But what they've done is that they're trying to market and force people into adopting the new lens system. Because what happens is that everybody said the EOS R sucked and they're not going to buy it. Nobody would buy the new lenses. And then Canon would be in quite of a pickle, because they would have to be forced to release their next onslaught of cameras with RF, whether people wanted to buy it or not. And they would be forced to have to deal with the market of people not wanting to buy RF and just continuing to stay in the EF market space. So it's very, very smart of what they've done. I just feel like it's bad for business. Now the R5, I don't feel like it. I feel like it's going to be a very, very lackluster, camera compared to the competition. I mean, you just have to think about what Sony's doing, what Samsung is doing. I mean, they are putting out some fire. I mean, Panasonic. No, I'm sorry, I said Samsung. Panasonic. Sony, Panasonic. You got Zcam. I mean, you have Blackmagic. I mean, there's so much competition to me that's way ahead of Canon in terms of being getting out there in the field and diversifying their clientele, giving them what they want instead of forcing things on them and forcing them to like what you give them. I feel like Canon is very much the same. I feel like they're very much like Nintendo. Whereas, you beg for something, you beg for specifics, you beg for different types of things, and they say, oh yeah, we're listening. Yeah, but we don't think you need any of that. We're gonna give you this. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like this is gonna happen with the R5. They're gonna tell you it's got 8K video, but I feel like when we actually see the real specs, it's gonna be it's gonna be let down. It's gonna be one of those things where you get 8K video only in a certain mode. And it's gonna be probably like 25p or some craziness, something crazy, right? It's gonna be something crazy. And it's still not gonna have 4K 120. To me, that's gonna be the biggest letdown when all of the competition at least has that. So, in my opinion, for it to be a real good success, I feel like if they're gonna say it has 8K video, I feel like it has to at least have 8K, at least 30p. And it definitely is not going to be raw, so it's going to be like UHD. To me, it's got to have at least 4K 60 as a standard, true 4K, and at least 1080p, 120 frames a second, with that crispy EOS R, that look, man, because they really are doing they did some really cool things with the EOS R, but it just didn't stand up to the competition. It was a very, very gimped. I feel like Canon puts out cameras that are below the Canon 1DX Mark II. I feel like everything behind that is gimped so hard. I feel like if it was an army of soldiers, there'd be like some of them be missing one arm, some be missing a leg and an arm. Like, they're so gimped, it's insane. So I feel like this mirrorless game that they're playing right now is very much going back to the basics. The EOS R is going to be the very most bare bones basic camera that you can get, and it shows that they can do some pretty amazing things with it. But I feel like all these other iterations are just stepping stones to get people invited in. And to me, I feel like it's a bad idea because the glass costs more than the camera body. Like, I would be down with stretching the budget a little bit just to try EOS R if it came down to like $1,200. But when you look at the glass, the damn glass is like $2,200, $2,300 plus. I mean, that is insane. Like, there's no way I'm buying a gimped piece of equipment and then buying a holy grail lens to use with such an inadequate camera body. Like, it's not even fair for them to ask you to spend more than what you're gonna pay on the lens than what you would pay for the camera body for a camera body that doesn't do that much. It's just insane to me. It's insane. The EOS R does not make any sense to me at the way it's priced now. I would gladly spend the money on the lens to work on the camera if that damn thing was like below $1,000. I feel like that would be fair. They can keep the lens at the price point it is, but the camera body has to go down. And honestly, when this EOS R5 comes out, the damn EOS R is gonna go down to like $500. $600 at the very most. It's gonna go down severely because there's gonna be no real need to use it except for a vlogging camera. And it's probably gonna turn into the best vlogging camera, which would turn out to be the best marketing move that Canon's ever done. So who really knows? But I feel like the R5 is getting people really excited for a bunch of nothing. I mean, if you really want to have some groundbreaking things, go look at the competition. You got Panasonic, you got Sony, like I said, you got Zcam, you got all the Blackmagic, you got all these other options. And to me, the only one thing that Canon has over them, all the other options, which would keep me coming back to Canon because I love them so much, is the autofocus system. It's just so good. Nobody can replicate it. It's just that good. And because they have that shield, that trump card, it really makes people think about the choices that they're gonna make based on that really one good thing, the autofocus. You know what I mean? If you think about it, if Canon didn't have that superb autofocus, we would just be buying whatever we think is the coolest. But because they have that great autofocus, that's why they charge as much as they do. That's why they're worth as much as they're worth. Because of that one great thing, man. You know, Canon, they can give you gimped products because they know that at the end of the day, their product is going to be reliable. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they got going for them. And I really hope that they would change and start giving people what they really, really want. And that's the clientele that don't wish or hope to spend over $5,600 for a 1DX Mark II and above going into their cinema line. People want, or people deserve at least what the 1DX Mark II can do in a mirrorless body. To me, the ultimate mirrorless body camera from Canon would be an exact replica, at the very least, of the 1DX Mark II. And there's no way that you can tell me that it's not possible when they already have older technology that can do it. So the newer technology, mirrorless technology, should be able to do that and more. And I feel like they're not going to give it to us right away. They're going to rebuild their climb in the mirrorless world. They're gonna rebuild up to that, but they're already behind the 8 ball. So it's like, how many people are really gonna stick with Canon until they get what they feel like they deserve instead of going to somebody else? And honestly, as much and as hard as these other companies are working to put out better frame rates, better quality sensors, bigger sensors, all these things that make these other camera companies special and make them awesome, like the S1H, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, all the competition, Sony's, what makes them awesome for going that route and trying to better their camera system, the one thing that they've all suffered from is their autofocus system. And I feel like once they figure out, once one of them figures out how to really nail down or be better or at least equal to Canon's autofocus system, once they spend a lot of money and into that direction and get that down, it's really going to be a game changer, and Canon's really going to be in a tight spot. You know, to me, it's kind of like AMD and Intel. AMD was under Intel's foot for such a long time, and Intel could happily charge whatever they wanted for their computer systems and chips and processors because there was no competition. And eventually, AMD grabbed a big hold of the market share with Threadripper and their better tech, their Zen Core chips, and now Intel is struggling just to sell any chips because they can't afford to sell it at the inflated price that they've been doing it for so many years, for so long. They can't afford to do that anymore. And now they have to make really major changes to their pricing and what they offer. And that's, to me, I feel like the same thing needs to happen in the camera industry. I feel like somebody really needs to put the money in, whether it's Sony, Panasonic, whoever it is, a newcomer like Zcam, somebody really needs to put the work in to match or be better than Canon's autofocus system. That is the one thing that Canon has the vast majority of stronghold all over all the other companies, and that is the autofocus system. So if somebody can match it or beat it, Canon will be forced to give people what they really want. They won't have a choice at that point because they won't have the loyal fan base and customer base that they will if somebody else can do what they do. You see what I'm saying? So that's exactly why I love companies that are coming up like Zcam, Ken Infinity. Like, these people, they're putting they're putting a strain on these bigger companies that can charge whatever they want because there's no competition. So I'm hoping that one of these companies like them really take it to the big companies and force them to give us what we want. Hell, for all we know, I don't know. For all we know, these other companies like Panasonic and them, for all we know, they're just doing this on purpose because they're taking some big ass long term to share profits or something. Maybe this is Canon's long-term goal of being able to capture the market share of the camera world. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna switch to somebody else. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Who really knows? But Canon can really take this opportunity to give us what they want. But at the end of the day, they're not. They're really not gonna give us what they want. The R5 will not be what you think it's gonna be. The R5 will not be what I wish it would be, which would be a mirrorless 1DX Mark II. That's all I really want in a mirrorless body. That's all I really want, Canon. It's just a 1DX Mark II. It doesn't have to be anything better. It just has to be at least that. And like I said, they're not gonna do that because the mirrorless camera game for them is going to be their lesser brand. I think they're gonna try to shift focus away from the T7Is and all those different APS-C sensors. I feel like those are not going to be the focus as much anymore. The mirrorless one is going to be all that. We might see the older APS-Cs, you know, the 90D may be the last one. Who knows? You know, it just may be all mirrorless, and then the 1DX, which is the hybrid, and then all the Cine cameras. Like, so who knows, man? Who really knows? But I won't be mad if they go all mirrorless. But if they go all mirrorless, it's gonna be painful for us because we're not gonna get what we really want. So, anyway, that's my rant. Let me know what you guys feel in the comments below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you want to. If not, hit the thumbs down. But regardless, let me know what you think. Are my opinions close to yours? Are they way off? Do you feel like Canon's actually going to give us what we really want? What exactly do you want? And what exactly do you expect from them? Are you okay with getting the bare minimum that Canon wants to give out as scraps? Or are you just happy to be a normal adopter of their gear, so it doesn't really matter to you? Like, what is your opinion, and what do you expect, and what do you really want? I would love to hear that. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.